Hi, everyone, and welcome to the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and celebrity interviews live from the Grotto with Greg Hanna. Greg, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic, Neil. And I'm so excited for our guest today. It's like I feel like I'm one of their family.
Yes, exactly. Child actor, my three sons, Barry Livingston. And Barry, you've been in so many other things after those, but you went through a lot of challenges as a child actor, especially in that time period. Barry, thanks for stopping by. How are you?
Oh, my pleasure. I'm great. Great.
All right, so let's kind of talk about it. The challenges of being a child actor, and we can get into my three sons, but just at that time period where they really didn't know how to handle child actors at that time. Would you agree?
Um, you know, I'm divided on that issue. Yes, there was a lot of I wouldn't say the abuses that took place in the early days of filmmaking when you had Jackie Coogan and Jackie Cooper and no laws and rules that were restricting the amount of hours that they could work. By the time I did My Three Sons, it was in the 1960s. There was a guardian, there was the Board of Education would get involved. If there were issues, you couldn't work past well, you couldn't do more than an 8-hour day. But again, the problems sometimes occurred offset, with the parents, not necessarily the people that you were working for, because those they were governed by laws and they had to abide by them. And pretty much they did. But our set was problem free. We had a great environment.
That's amazing. You got to tell me. So, what was it like working with your real brother as a brother?
Yeah, it's just a pain in the ass all the time. What can you say? It's a brother. No, my brother and I, considering how much time we spent together on set, we shared a dressing room, we shared a schoolroom, we shared a bedroom at home. So it's a wonder we didn't kill each other. Yeah, we're still best of friends today. I always looked up to my brother Stan. And he sort of blazed the trail. He was, on the Ozzie and Harriet show before me, and then he got cast on My Three Sons, and then I sort of filled his slot on the Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. So we got along great. I honestly I just don't even recall us ever having a real intense fight. Maybe disagreements, but we never had any problems.
So let's talk about shows like My Three Sons. Why do they still live on? Why is it so? I never watched really My Three Sons because I'm 50, but I maybe watched it a few times. It depends on the age level, but
Yeah,
everyone's
yeah.
heard of it. Why? Why is it
Well,
so
well,
synonymous?
it,
Yeah.
it's it's reached that tipping point now where you'll go to a young person and you'll say My Three Sons, and they'll go, blank stare, going,
Yeah.
or even Fred. You've heard of Fred McMurray, right? And blank stare. Which to me, Fred McMurray was one of the great stars of Hollywood prior to My Three Sons. So the longevity of the show was it was a family drama. It's still relatable, all the problems that occurred within the house, and it had a little bit of a unique a unique format where it was an all-male household originally. That was the original concept. By the end, there was daughter-in-laws, there was wives, there was kids, all kinds of people got away from the original concept. But still, it's non-threatening. It's just pure entertainment. There was no message, no big heavy message trying to be told, and it was done very skillfully.
Wow. You mentioned something. You did work with the legend Fred McMurray. What were some of the memorable moments that you had working with him on set?
Fred was very quiet. Honestly, he was a very shy man, I thought. Over time, I kind of got to know him, know that part of him a little better. Some people might have thought he was aloof for a movie star, but he truly was just a very kind of humble, small town kind of guy who got lucky. He was obviously a really good looking guy and talented. So that was eased his way into Hollywood. But he had kept to himself pretty much. I think one of the funnier things was he got very while he was doing My Three Sons, and he suddenly exploded onto the American television scene as dad, and everybody respected him. He was just an icon, even in the early days. And then he went and did Billy Wilder's film The Apartment, because he was an actor, but he played a real cad in the film. He was a real nasty guy. It was like a very Mad Men-esque film. I don't know if you've ever seen The Apartment, but he played the boss who leveraged his power over the female employees. And anyway, but he went to Disneyland one time with his family, and some woman recognized him who had just seen The Apartment and came up and hit him over the head with her purse. And to her it was real that he had betrayed his family. And how could you, you're so bad, and I always thought you were this really sweet guy on My Three Sons, and you hurt Shirley MacLaine in The Apartment. And he went on and on about that. Fred did, and it traumatized him so much he never did another major movie after that, because he never wanted to go against the character that he created.
Now, when we talk about some of the legends, Greg, that he's worked with, I'm just going to mention some of them: Elvis, Jerry Lewis, Debbie Reynolds, Mickey Rooney, Lucille Ball, Jackie Gleason, Ozzie Nelson, and the list goes on and on. Let's talk about when you said working with Elvis. Not a lot of people could say, hey, they've worked with legends like that.
That's slightly wrong. I was working at Paramount doing a movie with Debbie Reynolds called My Six Loves, and I didn't work with him, but I was on the lot. He was on the lot shooting another movie. I don't know the name of it, but this was the early 60s, and I came across this limousine, beautiful white customized limousine that was idling outside of a soundstage. And I was riding my bike around, just blowing off steam. And so the back door was open, an invitation to look in. And so I stopped, looked, it was really cool inside, all white leather and gold trimmed, and had a television, which completely freaked me out when I was, 10, 12 years old or whatever I was, and saw a TV in a car. And then Elvis kind of came out of the sound stage because had been delivered and customized. He was going to take a look at it. And so, he saw me and he said, hey, brought it over. I'm just going to take it for a test spin. You want to go? And I said, looked around and see if my mother was watching, but it was Elvis, and I know that sounds rife with a lot of today's issues of adults taking advantage of kids. It occurred to me actually only recently, strangely enough, that he knew me from the Ozzie and Harriet show. I wasn't just some random kid on the show. He was a big fan of Ricky. I'm sure he watched the Ozzie and Harriet, so he knew who I was. It wasn't just some little guy running around the lot. He knew I was a fellow actor. Anyway, so that was my encounter with Elvis. We took about a 10-minute drive around the lot, had a Coke, watched Popeye on his TV, and then we parted ways. And it's pretty magical experience.
Oh, that's amazing. Besides doing all the acting, you also did writing and producing. What was that like? Have you done particular projects in the past that like were your favorite?
I honestly, all the ones that I've written and sold never got made, but that's the way Hollywood is. Actually, I developed a project with Stan Lee that called Vampirates, and we it's just one of those things. The company we sold it to went belly up. But primarily, my life has been as an actor, and I continue to act today, and have a couple of actually a big project out right now on Amazon Prime. Is it Amazon? Oh, I'm going to screw it up. It's Netflix. Anyway, it's called Mrs. Davis.
I've been hearing some big things on this. This is wild because involving AI, and Greg's going to like this. Tell a little bit about Mrs. Davis, because I heard from somebody.
Oh, Mrs. Davis is fantastic, and it is wild. It's a wild ride. I got to tell you, I was not prepared for that. I didn't have the opportunity to read all 8 episodes, so I was only aware of my particular role in it. But it's an AI entity, app, whatever has really taken root in the world, to the point of which people are almost worshiping AI, almost as like replacing God. And a very rebellious nun who plays Betty Gilpin plays this person who goes out to find out what it's all about, what it's doing to people, and try to overturn this tide that's taken over the world. Mrs. Davis is the name. That's what they referred to as this all-knowing, all-seeing, all consuming AI out there. So it's a really, really good show, really, really great show. And I'm gonna be really in trouble because I know I did this other thing with Brie Larson called Lessons in Chemistry, which hasn't come out yet. And I know that's Apple TV. But Google Mrs. Davis. Forget the old guy here who can't
Yeah, it's
remember
on
that name.
I think it's on Amazon. I'm going to edit all that out, but that's
Please do.
the magic,
It
the
just sounds like
magic
a
of it.
fool.
But also, let's talk Notorious Nick, and then Greg has his final question. Because
All
I saw MMA, you were starring in that one. Tell us about that film, because I see that in your press.
Yes, well, that was a great project. Probably the best role I've had in recent years. It was about Nick Newell, who his stage name was Notorious Nick. He was an MMA fighter, but the unique part about his life is that he only had one arm. He had a congenital defect, so he really was only able to use one arm in his life, and certainly in the ring. And so he, I played his wrestling coach in high school. And anyway, he embarks on, trying to break into the world of MMA, which didn't want anything to do with him because they were going, he's either going to get really, really seriously hurt here, and nobody wanted to fight him because well, if he beats me, I got beat by a one-armed guy. So anyway, that, long story short, he does get into the world. He proceeds to gain the respect of fellow fighters, and I played his coach throughout the film in his MMA career, and he finally gets a shot at the title. And I'm not going to spoil what happens, but but you can probably figure it out. But it's a true story. Nick Newell was pretty amazing guy.
Interesting.
Wow.
Okay. Greg
Fantastic.
has a final question. He asks all celebrities about specifically a question. And it's really a deep question. Go ahead, Greg.
No, great, Barry. It's been a real pleasure, meeting you and getting to know you a bit. But let me ask you this, for myself, for all the potential listeners, what do you feel, Barry, is the most important thing in life you've ever learned?
Find a good partner. Find a good partner. My wife, we've been married for 40 years, and that is a big deal. I think you can't overstate that enough, because you're going to, particularly as an actor, you're going to have a lot of ups and downs. And in my life, my wife was not an actress, not really associated with show business. So it gave a kind of a balance to my life, particularly when things were not firing on all cylinders. And it gave, stability and tranquility and all those good things. If I can dovetail onto that, I'd say the second most important thing is just, I call it rejecting the rejection. You get rejected a lot in this business, but you have to reject that rejection. You have to make it, push forward and not let that control your life, because it can take you into a tailspin and a very dark place.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
It's such great stuff. Best place people can find information on you, Barry. Where can they go?
I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. That's about the extent of it. I don't tweet. But yeah, and just Google my name and you'll probably find some stuff that's out there. And that's where you'll find me.
We appreciate it. Thanks again, Barry.
Okay,
thanks,
good
Barry.
to see you.
Great
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
That was Celebrity Interviews live from the Grotto with Greg Hanna. Guys, take care.